Hi, it's Jason from drpremed.com, and I want to talk to you about the MCAT and standardized test taking and what actually happens during your exam when you're in the middle of the exam taking a test, because a lot of people or students have questions about that process, and I want to dispel a myth or rumor that's floating around with standardized tests, especially since they're electronic nowadays, where students feel that, oh, as they're working their way through the test, it's a computer-based exam so that the computer sees how you're doing on the exam, so to ensure that you don't get a top score, they start to add more questions in an area that are more difficult for you. Do you guys believe this is true or false? And actually, I want to tell you that's actually false. The test is actually pre-downloaded in advance to those computers at those testing centers, so they're not going to go and change their algorithm and determine what questions they bring up based on how you're doing. So let's say, for instance, you're taking your MCAT, your first round of questions kind of alright, but you're noticing that physics is giving you a lot of trouble, and then you feel like as you go further and further through your test, you're just getting more harder and harder physics problems. It's going to bring down your overall MCAT score in that one section of the exam. That's not what happens. That test is already made in advance. It's downloaded to that computer, so it's test taker neutral, meaning that the questions don't change based on your previous performance, and that's throughout all sections of the MCAT, so you don't need to worry about that taking place. I know there are some students who are concerned about that. If that actually happens on the MCAT, I want to tell you no, that does not happen on it. And then another thing students also say in regards to the MCAT or their standardized test, they feel as though some material is tested way more heavily than other material on the MCAT. That's not the case. The test writers and everybody who works at the MCAT, they want to make sure that's congruent experience, that all the materials weighted equally based on the percentage that they say of what you should expect to see on the MCAT. And what's actually happening is it's something called like a cognitive or psychological bias. I forget the exact term for it. But what happens, let's say, let me pick a topic. Let's say that biochem isn't your strong suit. So you get a couple problems on hybridization, Fritz issue hybridization, all of that good stuff, and then you're just like, okay, this is hard. I couldn't remember what was southern blot versus western blot versus northern blot, and then you just felt you got a lot of those questions wrong. And then you've maybe had some with the lac operon, and so then you're going to walk away thinking that the test was heavily favored on biochem for that portion of the exam, and actually it wasn't. What happens is you walk away, and it could just be one or two questions that really tripped you up during your exam, but that's going to stick on your mind during the test and after you leave, and so you're going to walk away thinking, man, I had so much biochem on this exam, it wasn't even funny. The western blots, northern blots, the lac operon, all of that stuff, and you're just going to feel like, okay, this test really went in on that subject area that you weren't expecting it. Well, you kind of expected, but you didn't think it was going to be that in depth. But if you actually take a look at the MCAT and all the questions that you've had on the test, you'll see that the biochem was actually a reasonable amount of questions that you took on the test, but you just thought that there was more because it's harder, so that just stands out in your memory. And that goes for basically any testing environment that you're in. If it's standardized, that if you walk away thinking like, oh, there was more on this topic or subject than what I expected, and it was really hard and difficult, no, that's just your mind kind of playing a trick on you, where you think that there was a lot more of that topic just because it was a painful experience, and so you're going to remember it longer. And these are just some takeaways I have for you in regards to the MCAT. Nothing really for you to do in particular with this. This is just some background knowledge, some FYI information for you to use and kind of dispel some rumors that students have in regards to the MCAT and what's actually on it. So just want to put that out there for you guys so you guys have an idea what's going on with the MCAT. And again, with the MCAT, that's a test you want to take once and only sit for the MCAT when you're most prepared to do well on an exam, because you want to be once and done with the MCAT. And this is Jason with drpremed.com. Be sure to sign up for my newsletter, Pre-Med Grand Rounds, which you can find on drpremed.com. Take care.